The sleek scout vessel Distant Horizon drifted silently through the blackness of space. Its curved hull gleamed under the light of unfamiliar stars as it moved through what the galactic hegemony had labeled Sector 417, supposedly empty space. Officer Hand stood at the main sensor station, his four eyes blinking in sequence as unusual readings appeared on his screen. He tapped a scaled finger against the display, recalibrating the system. "Captain Jin, I'm detecting artificial signals from the third planet of this star system," Hand reported, voice tight with surprise. "The readings suggest advanced technology. This sector was supposed to be uninhabited." Captain Jin, a tall figure with pale blue skin, moved swiftly to the sensor station. "Impossible. The survey was conducted less than 50 cycles ago." Yet the evidence was clear. Radio transmissions, satellites, and energy signatures of a civilization in its early space age. The hegemony had somehow missed an entire sentient species. "Prepare a first contact protocol," Captain Jin ordered, "and alert Admiral Pack's fleet. We may have found new potential members for the hegemony." Within days, Admiral Pack arrived with the diplomatic vessel Peaceful Accord. The Admiral was known for bringing 17 species into the hegemony fold, though some whispered that not all had joined willingly. "These humans appear to be in their technological adolescence," Admiral Pack noted, studying the gathered intelligence. "Perfect timing. They're advanced enough to appreciate what we offer, but not so advanced they would reject our guidance." The hegemony sent the first transmission in standard galactic code, mathematical sequences designed to be understood by any logical species. Earth responded within hours, their message showing remarkable comprehension. When a small human diplomatic vessel left Earth orbit 3 days later, Admiral Pack felt a rare sense of satisfaction. "This will be a simple integration," he told his staff. The human ship was tiny compared to the hegemony vessels, barely larger than a shuttle. It carried 6 diplomats led by Ambassador Kim, a woman with a calm voice and steady gaze. The initial meeting occurred in the neutral space between their ships. "We welcome this historic opportunity," Ambassador Kim said through the hastily developed translation system. "Humanity has long wondered if we were alone in the universe." Admiral Pack nodded his elongated head. "The galactic hegemony brings order and progress to all civilizations under our protection. Your world will benefit greatly from our guidance." Ambassador Kim's smile faltered slightly. "We look forward to learning about the hegemony, though we approach this as equals seeking friendship rather than protection." The Admiral's facial ridges darkened, a sign of displeasure his staff recognized immediately. "All young species require protection," he said. "Your integration will proceed smoothly if you accept this reality." Over the next 2 days, tensions grew. The humans insisted on reviewing all treaties before signing. They asked pointed questions about member species autonomy. They requested to speak with other recently joined civilizations. "They are unusually resistant for such a young species," Officer Han observed during a private briefing. Admiral Pack hissed softly. "They're dangerous. I see it now. This stubborn independence could infect other member worlds. We've had rebellions before from such thinking." The final meeting deteriorated when Ambassador Kim formally requested time to report back to Earth's governments before proceeding further. "We simply need to consult with our leaders," she explained. "This is our standard diplomatic procedure." Admiral Pack saw this as the final proof of human deception. "They will warn their planet, possibly arm themselves," he told his command staff after the humans returned to their vessel. "This species shows alarming independence. The safety of the hegemony must come first." He made his decision with cold calculation. A precautionary measure is required. The human diplomatic vessel never saw the attack coming. The hegemony weapons cut through their minimal shields in seconds. Just before their destruction, Ambassador Kim managed one final transmission to Earth. Her face, illuminated by warning lights, appeared on screens across her home planet. "They're firing on us without provocation." Her voice was steady despite everything. "Earth must prepare." They call themselves the hegemony. They don't want partners. They want subjects. Don't trust. The transmission ended in static. On the bridge of his command ship, Admiral Pack watched the debris field where the human vessel had been. "Log this incident as a regrettable accident during first contact," he ordered. "We'll leave a monitoring outpost and return when they're ready to be reasonable." He didn't know that across the vast distance, humanity had received Ambassador Kim's final warning. And they would not forget. Captain Lee stood at the viewport of the HSS Retribution, watching Earth shrink behind them. The massive warship hummed with power as it accelerated beyond the orbit of the moon. 3 years had transformed humanity. 3 years since his brother's final transmission from the diplomatic vessel. 3 years of preparation for this moment. "Captain, all systems are operating at optimal levels," reported Officer Park from the tactical station. "Stealth field is stable." Lee nodded, his face showing no emotion though his heart raced. The Retribution represented humanity's greatest achievement, and their greatest gamble. After Ambassador Kim's final warning, Earth's nations had done something unprecedented. They united. Old enemies became allies. Resources once spent on fighting each other now funded a single purpose: defense against the hegemony. "Begin transition to FTL when we clear the solar system," Lee ordered. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. They were the best Earth had to offer, selected from military forces around the world. Every person aboard knew what was at stake. "Do you think they expect us?" asked Commander Yoon, Lee's second-in-command. "No," Lee said firmly. "The hegemony believes we're still confined to our solar system. They left only a small monitoring outpost beyond Pluto. We destroyed it silently last week." The Retribution was unlike any vessel humans had built before. Its hull contained alien metals salvaged from crashed hegemony scout ships. Its engines incorporated principles of physics that humanity had only theorized before the first contact. Most importantly, it carried weapons that could penetrate any known defensive shield. In the 3 years since the attack, Earth had changed dramatically. Factories that once built cars now produced spacecraft components. Computer networks once used for entertainment now calculated battle strategies. Children who once dreamed of being actors or athletes now trained to fight aliens. "Approaching FTL transition point," announced the navigation officer. "All personnel should secure stations." Lee took his seat and fastened the harness. The view screen showed stars ahead, millions of points of light where the hegemony existed, unaware that humans were coming. "Activate FTL in 3, 2, 1. The stars stretched into lines as the Retribution leaked beyond light speed. In his private quarters later, Lee opened a small metal case. Inside was a photograph of his brother Jin, smiling broadly in his diplomatic uniform. They had been so proud when Jin was selected for the first contact mission. So hopeful about meeting aliens. "We're on our way," Lee whispered to the photo. "They'll remember your name." A soft chime announced Commander Yoon at his door. "Enter," Lee called, closing the case. Yoon stepped inside, carrying a data tablet. "The crew is performing well, Captain. Morale is high." "Good. They understand what we're doing." "Yes." Yoon hesitated. "Some of the younger officers have been discussing what happens after we complete our mission." Lee raised an eyebrow. "After? If we succeed, when we succeed, we'll have changed the balance of power in this part of the galaxy. Some wonder if we should push further. The hegemony destroyed our diplomats. Some believe they deserve more than just a demonstration." Lee stood and walked back to the viewport, now showing the swirling colors of FTL space. "The council was clear, Commander. We show strength without initiating genocide. We are not like them." "Of course, Captain." Days passed as the Retribution traveled deeper into hegemony space. The ship's advanced stealth technology made it invisible to standard detection methods. They passed several hegemony outposts without triggering alarms. "We're approaching the Talon system," Officer Park reported on the 7th day. "Intelligence indicates it contains one of their major fleet bases. Perfect, Lee said. Prepare for normal space transition. The Retribution dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system. Ahead lay several planets orbiting a yellow star, not unlike Earth's sun. But these worlds teemed with alien life and technology. Dozens of hegemony ships moved between planets. Full stealth mode, Lee ordered. Move us closer to their command station. The massive human warship drifted silently toward the heart of the alien fleet. None of the hegemony vessels showed any sign of detecting them. Weapons standing by, Officer Park reported quietly. Lee took a deep breath. Soon, the hegemony would learn that humanity was not to be underestimated. Soon, they would pay for what they had done to Jin and the other diplomats. Begin recording our message to their command, Lee said. It's time to introduce ourselves properly. Officer Choi blinked all four of his eyes in sequence, a sign of confusion among his species. He adjusted the sensitivity on his sensor station aboard the unwavering Doctrine and leaned closer to the display. The reading appeared again, faint but definitely present. Senior Officer Min, he called, keeping his voice steady despite his growing concern. I'm detecting an anomalous energy signature in Sector 7. Min glided across the bridge, her scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the control panels. As the chief sensor officer, she had served on patrol vessels for 20 cycles and prided herself on identifying any ship in hegemony space by its energy pattern alone. Show me, she ordered, positioning herself behind Choi's chair. The junior officer highlighted the strange reading. It pulsed at unusual intervals, barely visible against the background radiation of space. I've never seen this configuration before, Min admitted after studying it for several moments. Run it through the database. Choi's fingers moved quickly across the controls. The ship's computer compared the signature against all known vessels in hegemony records. After several seconds, a message flashed. No EXAKT MATCH found. However, a secondary note appeared beneath it. Theoretical Scientific to Human Propulsion System, 72% QOFID and C. Min's skin paled to a lighter blue. Humans. That's impossible. Their technology is primitive. They're confined to their home system. The reading is moving, Senior Officer, Choi reported. It's heading deeper into hegemony space. Min straightened up. Alert Commander Song immediately. Commander Song had been enjoying a meal in his quarters when the alert came. He arrived on the bridge, still wiping food residue from his facial ridges. Report, he demanded. Min pointed to the sensor display. Possible human vessel, Commander. Moving at high speed through Sector 7. Humans. Song's voice betrayed his disbelief. Their ships can barely reach their own moon. This matches theoretical patterns for human technology, but far more advanced than our intelligence suggested possible, Min explained. Song studied the readings, his expression darkening. The hegemony had dismissed humans after the incident 3 cycles ago. Admiral Pack had assured the Council that the species would need decades to develop interstellar travel. Yet here was evidence suggesting otherwise. Send an encrypted alert to all vessels in this quadrant, Song ordered. Priority Level 1. Within minutes, the message had spread throughout the nearby fleet. The unwavering Doctrine continued tracking the mysterious signature as it moved with purpose through hegemony territory. It's heading directly toward the Talon system, Choi noted with growing alarm. That's where the Central Fleet is stationed. On the command ship Eternal Vigilance, Admiral Ren received the alert during a strategic planning session. Unlike most of his colleagues, Ren had studied the human first contact incident extensively. Deploy all vessels in defensive formation, he commanded immediately. This is not a drill. His second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Kang, looked confused. Sir, it's just one ship according to these readings, and we're not even certain it's human. One ship that our sensors can barely detect, Ren corrected sharply. One ship that somehow crossed half the quadrant without being noticed until now. One ship from a species that Admiral Pack assured us was harmless. Throughout the fleet, alarms spread faster than official orders. Many officers had heard stories about humans, violent, unpredictable creatures from a death world with high gravity and toxic oxygen atmosphere, creatures who fought wars against their own kind with terrifying regularity. On a small patrol vessel near the edge of the system, Captain Du addressed his nervous crew. "Remember your training. Humans are physically weak compared to most hegemony species. Their technology is inferior." "Then how did they get here?" asked a young weapons officer. "How did they evade our detection grids?" Du had no answer. Back on the unwavering doctrine, Choi continued monitoring the signal. "Commander, the signature is changing. It's growing stronger." Song leaned over the sensor display. "They know we've detected them." "Sir," Min interjected, her voice tight. "According to these readings, the human vessel is nearly the size of a hegemony cruiser. How could they build such a ship in just 3 cycles?" The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had not only achieved interstellar travel, but had constructed a warship large enough to pose a genuine threat. "Battle stations," Psalm ordered quietly. "Prepare all weapons systems." Throughout the fleet, ships moved into defensive positions. Weapon systems powered up. Shields strengthened. Pilots sat ready in fighters. Yet fear spread like a virus. No one in the current fleet had ever faced humans in combat. All they had were stories and rumors, tales of human resilience, human cunning, human rage. On the command ship, Admiral Ren stared at the tactical display, showing the human vessel's approach. "What do they want?" Sub-Admiral Kang wondered aloud. "Revenge," Ren answered simply. "And soon we'll discover what form that takes." The human ship continued its inexorable approach, now moving openly through hegemony space. No longer hiding, no longer running, coming straight for them. Admiral Ren stood rigid on the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance, surrounded by the finest officers of the hegemony fleet. Tactical displays showed their defensive formation. 67 warships arranged in overlapping spheres around the command vessel. Each ship bristled with weapons that could reduce a small planet to molten slag. It was the most powerful concentration of military might in this sector of the galaxy. Yet the Admiral felt uneasy. "Any update on the human vessel?" he asked. Sub-Admiral Kang consulted her display. "We've lost the signal, Admiral. It disappeared from sensors approximately 7 minutes ago." "Impossible. Nothing can hide from our detection grid at this range." The words had barely left his mouth when alarms blared across the bridge. In the center of their formation, where empty space had existed moments before, a massive vessel materialized. "Proximity alert," shouted the sensor officer. "Unknown vessel has appeared inside our defensive perimeter." The ship that appeared seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its hull was angular and predatory, unlike the smooth curves of hegemony design. It dwarfed most of their escort vessels and bristled with unfamiliar weapon systems. "How did it penetrate our formation without detection?" Kang whispered, her scales paling to a sickly yellow. Before anyone could respond, every communication system in the fleet activated simultaneously. A face appeared on their screens, a human face with features that seemed flat and strange to hegemony eyes. The being wore a dark uniform with unfamiliar symbols. "This is Captain Lee of the human starship Retribution," the creature stated in flawless hegemony standard. "We could have struck without warning. Remember that." Admiral Ren stepped forward. "This is Admiral Ren of the Galactic Hegemony. Your presence in our territory is an act of war. Power down your systems immediately and prepare to be boarded." The human's expression remained unchanged. 3 years ago, your forces destroyed a peaceful diplomatic mission from Earth. Ambassador Kim and her team died transmitting a warning to our world. Murmurs spread across the bridge. Many younger officers had never heard of this incident. "Target the human vessel," Ren ordered. "All ships, prepare to fire on my command." The weapons officer worked her controls frantically. "Sir, our targeting systems cannot lock onto their ship. Something is interfering with our sensors." On screen, Captain Lee continued. We are not here to start a war. We are here to prevent one. Observe. The human ship rotated slightly, bringing one of its weapon ports to bear on a small uninhabited moon orbiting the fourth planet. There was a brief flash of energy, barely visible to the naked eye. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the moon seemed to shimmer. Cracks appeared across its surface, spreading like lightning. Before the stunned eyes of the hegemony fleet, the celestial body shattered into millions of fragments. By the first ones, whispered Kang. That moon was 16 kilometers in diameter. The human captain's voice remained calm. This demonstration used approximately 5% of our weapons capacity. Similar weapons now exist on multiple human vessels. Admiral Wren felt his limbs grow cold. The hegemony had classified humans as a minor species, barely worth monitoring. Yet in just 3 years, they had developed technology that outmatched the hegemony's best defenses. All ships, hold your fire, Wren ordered, his voice tight. Open a diplomatic channel. But before he could speak again, the sensors blared with new alerts. The human ship is fading from our scanners, reported the confused sensor officer. Its energy signature is disappearing. Before their eyes, the massive human vessel seemed to blur, then vanish entirely from both visual observation and sensor detection. Find it, Wren demanded. Officers scrambled at their stations, but the human ship had simply disappeared. Across the fleet, panic spread rapidly. Some captains ordered their ships to retreat to defensive positions. Others maintained their formation but powered up additional shield generators. Communications channels filled with confused chatter. What just happened? Asked a young officer, her voice shaking. Admiral Wren stared at the empty space where the human ship had been. They could have destroyed us all, he said quietly. Instead, they chose to deliver a message. What do we do now, Admiral? Kang asked. Wren turned away from the view screen. We informed the High Council immediately. The humans are not the primitive species we thought them to be. He paused, his facial ridges darkening with concern. And we pray they remain interested in talking rather than retribution. Throughout the fleet, the story spread. How a single human warship had appeared in their midst, demonstrated weapon technology beyond hegemony capability, and vanished without a trace. Fear replaced confidence among even veteran officers. The humans had made their point. They could strike anywhere, at any time, without warning. And there was nothing the mighty hegemony could do to stop them. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Hegemony buzzed with anxious voices. 53 representatives from member species sat in tiered seats surrounding a central speaking platform. Emergency lights pulsed along the walls, signaling the highest level of crisis. Supreme Counselor Moon entered the chamber, his ceremonial robes dragging behind his aged form. The room fell silent immediately. In 300 years of service, Moon had never called an emergency session with such urgency. Esteemed colleagues, he began, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. Our understanding of the galaxy has been gravely mistaken. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing images of the human warship Retribution. Additional screens displayed data from the encounter, including the destruction of the moon. 3 years ago, one of our fleets destroyed a human diplomatic vessel, claiming it was a precautionary measure. Moon continued. We classified humans as a minor species, limited to their home system. A counselor from the warrior caste stood. Supreme Counselor, with respect, one advanced ship does not constitute a threat to the hegemony. We have faced rebels before. Intelligence Director Quan stepped forward, her small frame almost lost in the vastness of the speaking platform. New intelligence suggests the humans have constructed not one, but dozens of vessels similar to the Retribution. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Impossible, shouted a counselor. No species could advance so quickly. Director Quan activated a new holographic display. It showed sensor readings from across hegemony space. We have detected energy signatures matching the Retribution near 17 major hegemony worlds. These ships appeared simultaneously, remained briefly, then vanished from our sensors. "They're mapping our defenses," said a military counselor, his scales darkening with dread. "They already know our defenses," corrected Moon. "They are showing us they could strike anywhere, at any time." As if summoned by his words, the chamber's communication system activated. On the main display appeared the face of Captain Lee. "Honorable counselors of the hegemony," the human said, "I speak on behalf of Earth." Security officers drew weapons, though they had nothing to shoot at. The transmission was coming through channels that should have been impossible to access. "How dare you intrude on council proceedings?" demanded a counselor. Lee's expression remained neutral. "3 years ago, your forces destroyed our diplomatic mission without provocation. You thought us weak and primitive. You were mistaken." The chamber fell silent. "The Retribution and our other vessels have completed their survey of hegemony space," Lee continued. "We could destroy your major worlds before your fleets could respond. But Earth desires peace, not war." Supreme Counselor Moon stepped forward. "What are your terms, Captain Lee?" "3 conditions for peace," Lee answered. "First, formal acknowledgement of your unprovoked attack on our diplomatic vessel. Second, reparations for the families of those lost. Third, proper representation for humanity in your council." The terms hung in the air. Many counselors had expected demands for territory, technology, or even unconditional surrender. "You ask only for justice and recognition?" asked Moon, unable to hide his surprise. "Humans understand the value of life, including non-human life," Lee replied. "We seek to join the galactic community as equals, not conquerors, but we will never again be treated as inferiors." After the transmission ended, the council debated briefly. The decision was nearly unanimous. 2 weeks later, Captain Lee stood in the same council chamber, now as Earth's first official representative. The formal acknowledgement of the attack had been issued throughout hegemony space. Reparations had been arranged. Now, humanity would take its place among the stars. "The humans could have destroyed us," Counselor Quan remarked quietly to Supreme Counselor Moon as they watched Lee take his seat. "Instead, they chose diplomacy." "They are either very wise or very dangerous," Moon replied. "Perhaps both." Across hegemony space, the balance of power had shifted dramatically. Species that had once looked down on primitive races now reconsidered their positions. Military strategists study human technology with a mixture of fear and admiration. Diplomatic corps revised their first contact protocols. In his private quarters that evening, Captain Lee sent a final message to Earth before beginning his duties as counselor. "Mission accomplished," he wrote. "Ambassador Kim's sacrifice has led to peace, not war." He looked out at the stars visible through his viewport. The hegemony had existed for thousands of years, bringing many species under its control through force or coercion. Now they had encountered a species that demanded respect rather than submission. A new order had begun in the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, bringing with them something the hegemony had never truly understood before: power tempered by mercy, strength guided by wisdom. And the stars would never be the same again. The Reclamation shuddered as it completed its final phase shift. The damaged ship materialized directly inside the massive Tellari flagship, its hull scraping against alien corridors. Alarms blared throughout both vessels as atmospheres mixed and systems failed. "Phase shift complete," Lieutenant Kim reported, his console sparking around him. "We're inside their command center, but the drive is completely burned out." Commander Park unstrapped from her chair. "There's no going back now. Security team with me." She checked her sidearm. "Everyone else, prepare for emergency evacuation if needed." Captain Kang approached her. "Commander, this is too dangerous. Let me go instead." "No, Captain. I started this mission. I'll finish it." Park looked around at her bridge crew one last time. "If we don't return in 30 minutes, get our people off this ship however you can." Park led her small team through the breach point where the 2 ships had fused together. The interior of the Tellari flagship was unlike anything they had expected. Instead of the harsh military design they anticipated, the walls were adorned with patterns that seemed almost artistic. And more surprising still, many of the patterns were clearly of human origin. "These are Earth designs," Security Chief 1 whispered. "Ancient patterns from multiple human cultures." They encountered little resistance as they moved deeper into the ship. Most Telari they saw were fleeing in panic, their biotech implants failing from exposure to the bacterial agent that had now spread to their flagship. Finally, they'd reached what appeared to be the command center. The doors were already open, disabled by system failures. Inside, a single Telari stood waiting. Larger than the others, with an exoskeleton bearing elaborate markings of rank and authority. "Supreme Commander Park," the alien said in halting but understandable human language. "I am Supreme Director Nuck. I have been expecting you." Park kept her weapon trained on the Talari leader. "Your forces are in retreat. Your technology is failing. I'm here to negotiate the terms of your surrender." Nuck made a gesture that might have been a Talari version of a laugh. "Is that what you believe this is? A simple military victory?" The alien moved to one side of the chamber, revealing what had been hidden behind him. A vast collection of human artifacts. Books, paintings, sculptures, and technological devices from throughout human history, all carefully preserved. "We took your world because we admired it," Nock explained, gesturing to the collection. "Your species created beauty we could never imagine." Hark lowered her weapon slightly, confusion evident on her face. "You drove us from our home to collect our art." "Not I," Nock corrected. "My predecessors. They discovered Earth by accident, a routine exploration mission. What they found fascinated them, a species that created not just for function, but for meaning." He moved to touch a small painting of Earth's ocean. "The militancy saw resources to exploit. Others among us saw something to preserve." "The enlightened ones," Park realized. "Yes, they began as a small movement, preserving what the militancy would destroy. Over generations they grew. I was once among the militancy myself, until I saw." He gestured to a simple clay bowl painted with human handprints. "This, made by a human child thousands of years ago. It served no purpose except to express joy in creation." Outside the flagship, the battle had reached a stalemate. The human fleet, bolstered by ships from the Enlightened One's faction, had surrounded the remaining militancy vessels. Neither side was firing. "What exactly are you proposing?" Park asked. "What Ven suggested, a shared world. We have the knowledge to restore much of what was damaged. You have the right to return home. And those in your militancy who disagree." Nock's exoskeleton shifted in what might have been a shrug. "They are already defeated. Your bacterial agent has shown them that Earth itself rejects their presence. Many will return to our homeworld. Some may stay under new leadership." 6 months later, Commander, now Governor, Hannah Park walked along a restored beach in what had once been Busan. The sand had been cleansed of Telari terraforming materials, and native earth plants were beginning to reclaim the shore. The ocean sparkled in the afternoon sun, its color slowly returning to the blue her ancestors had known, rather than the purple the Talari had engineered. Nearby, human families from the first wave of returnees were building homes on the hillside. Their modern designs integrated naturally with the crystalline structures the reformed Talari had created. The agreement to share Earth had been controversial among both species, but already the joint restoration projects were showing promise. Engineers from both species had developed methods to gradually revert the planet's atmosphere to its original composition, while creating special habitation zones for Talari who wished to remain. The drilling operations into Earth's core had been permanently halted. "Governor Park," a voice called. Hannah turned to see Dr. Choi approaching along the beach. "The latest readings are promising. The native bacterial populations are reestablishing themselves even faster than we predicted. And the Talari adaptations. Proceeding well. Those who chose to stay are voluntarily modifying their biotech to work in harmony with Earth's microbiome, rather than against it. Hannah nodded, then paused as something caught her eye. Further down the beach, a human child was cautiously approaching a young Talari. The two species rarely interacted on such a personal level yet, separated by centuries of hostility and fundamental biological differences. The human child held out a small object, a shell collected from the shore. After a moment's hesitation, the Talari youth accepted it, examining the natural formation with obvious fascination. Hannah smiled, feeling the weight of 2 centuries of exile finally lifting from her shoulders. She reached for the vial of earth soil she still wore around her neck, opened it, and carefully emptied its contents onto the beach. "We've come home," she whispered. Earth belonged to all who would protect it now.